Definition of a defect, it's very important because in many literature you will find defect elimination as a subject, and you have to distinguish two different interpretations.
Es muy importante clarificar cuál interpretación tenemos de defecto, puesto que en la literatura hay varias interpretaciones.
One is that defect is almost something physically that happened.
Una interpretación es que hay una expresión, como un daño, una cosa física.
In the context of this, the definition of defect is the defect is a root cause of that problem.
En el contexto en que hablamos, para nosotros un defecto es la causa raíz de este problema.
So, an example, if you use a fitter,
si usas un maquinista, un mecánico,
that has no experience with changing a bearing,
que no tiene experiencia en cambiar un rodamiento,
the defect is already entered the door.
El defecto entró en la compuerta.
At that time.
En este momento.
Because after that there will be a damage.
Después habrá daño.
And probability of the damage will be high.
Y la probabilidad es alta, será alta.
So just think about defects, not what you used to so far. Think about defects, you will recognize them.
Piensen en defectos en un modo muy amplio.
I can think of myself 30 years ago. I smoked cigarettes, not other stuff.
Hace 30 años Nick fumaba.
I was introducing the defect. I was healthy.
Yo estaba sano, pero estaba introduciendo un defecto.
But I can't expect that doesn't do the damage.
Pero
That would be silly.
No puedo esperar de ningún modo que esto no cause daño a la larga.
I hope that I stopped early enough to keep the gate closed.
Solo espera que paró a tiempo para parar la compuerta, digamos,
But
cerrar.
I will find when I do my life cycle analysis.
Pero lo sabrá más tarde, cuando se vuelva viejo, o más viejo.
Now I'm going to share with you 5 simple steps about how to develop asset strategy in line with the asset management specification that is based on the principle of defect elimination.
Ahora compartirá los pasos para generar una estrategia de gestión de activos en la línea de la filosofía y del marco británico también.
First step is about defining the process.
Es definir el proceso
that you own.
Que tienes en la planta, que tenéis en la planta.
So the smallest part of your process, it's a process step.
Eso es un paso de proceso, no un equipo.
Major process, sub-process, process step. That's the smallest part, not the equipment.
No estamos mirando equipos, sino pasos de proceso.
And process step is not a maintainable item, like maybe you used to think when you were doing some of the reliability analysis. This is slightly different. You have to concentrate on the process.
So, el foco aquí más que en un equipo y su confiabilidad es en el paso del proceso.
There is a reason behind this, because later on, when you apply the process, you have to think more holistic, not to get to the points of everything here can fail. This screw can fail. Yeah. Maybe in 10 million years, but can fail. So we want to not to be obsessed with the details, but with the holistic function.
Esto se hace para promover una visión global o general del activo y no perderse en detalles.
Second one is to define function and functional failure.
Paso siguiente es definir la función y el fallo de la función.
You're probably familiar with this from a previous experience, and it's no different.
No es diferente con FMA, por ejemplo.
But this function is not the function of the equipment.
Pero esto no es la función del equipo, sino
it's the function of that process step that you decide to look at holistically.
La función del paso del proceso que se ha decidido agrupar en un paso.
Step number 3 is you have to conduct some root cause analysis and rank risks.
Un análisis de la causa raíz y una priorización de riesgos.
This step involves also identification of the gates through which this defects or root causes came through, because when you develop actions, you have to understand that. That's very important for developing actions.
También se identifican las compuertas a través de las cuales las causas raíces penetraron al equipo, puesto que esto permite desarrollar acciones específicas, como veremos más tarde.
It's very important in this step not to stop at cause and to go too far in symptoms.
Es muy importante no perderse en síntomas, pero sí enfocarse en la causa raíz.
When we looked at this first, looked like root cause analysis of everything. It's impossible.
Cuando lo vimos por primera vez es imposible ser causa raíz de todo.
But you have to remember we are doing root cause analysis before failure happened.
Pero hacemos causa raíz antes de que pase el evento.
So if failure hasn't happened and you have a right team to ask how the failure can happen, everyone wants to contribute.
Lo que promueve que la gente sea más colaborativa, porque no es un evento a partir del cual se sienten culpables, digamos que están colaborando con un tema virtual que puede pasar.
We have found that people know exactly how the equipment, how they can cause equipment to fail.
Y sabemos que la gente sabe perfectamente cómo causan el equipo que falle.
And the other important thing is you prioritize and you don't apply this on everything. Apply on important elements. What's the most important for your business to be sustainable business?
Es importante que se priorice en función de los objetivos de negocio, porque obviamente no se puede hacer a todo.
In steel industry, we use criteria. For example, one of the criticality was related to cost, another was related to production, another was related to major risk. Major risk, it's a legislation in Europe and Australia, and I will learn more about South America, but when there are chances of multiple fatalities or something big happening.
O sea, en la industria del acero, por ejemplo, en Australia se miró producción, etcétera, como habéis oído.
The next step is develop actions to manage root causes.
El paso siguiente es desarrollar acciones para gestionar causas raíz.
This is not about generating inspections.
No es inspeccionar.
Inspections may be 10%, 20%.
Podría ser un 10 o un 20% de las acciones.
The rest of actions are not inspections.
El resto típicamente no son inspecciones.
I'll show you some statistics later on just to give you an idea how different industry have a different mix of actions.
Después veremos el resultado en diferentes industrias.
And the last step is the most important. Most of the strategies, when they are developed, they are on the paper. So far, all of this is on the paper.
O sea, el último paso es el más importante.
Now has to happen.
La mayoría de estrategias están en el papel. Hasta este punto la estrategia aún está en el papel. Ahora tiene que pasar, se tiene que implementar.
So, a key step.
Es un paso clave.
So I hope this is simple enough, but what is important to understand, behind each of these 5 steps, there is a very disciplined process. And I have to reinforce, a very disciplined process.
Después en cada paso hay un procedimiento muy estructurado, pero espero que este les dé una idea de cómo se hace.
Disciplined process doesn't mean detailed.
No quiere decir al detalle, quiere decir con disciplina, digamos, con rigor.
It has to be disciplined first. I wanted to challenge a little bit. I have this diagram from the literature. I don't know who put together, unfortunately, because where I got it, it didn't have reference. So if some of you prepare this, good. I like.
No se acuerda de dónde salió, pero está utilizado ampliamente en la literatura.
But I want to ask you one thing here. You know about this maturity, they call maturity, and these are kind of different evolution path of how you look after equipment. And it's typically from a maintenance perspective. And you start with reactive, then you start with planned, then you start with some planned and proactive. Then you start thinking maybe production and operations are important and introducing some statistical analysis, Six Sigma approach. And then you think about defect elimination.
Este diagrama normalmente se usa para determinar la madurez de las organizaciones en el mantenimiento.
I want to stress out, I have a problem, one problem with this, is that this is called maturity.
Yo tengo el problema precisamente que se llama madurez.
Because I don't believe if you're building an asset today, if you're buying an asset today, if you're looking after an asset today, that you have to damage that asset before you can learn what to do.
Porque yo no creo que en ningún caso se tenga que ser reactivo como paso previo a saber lo que se tiene que hacer.
I think you can start with what is today.
Se puede empezar con la práctica buena.
I think it's more of a choice rather than maturity.
O sea que es más una cuestión de elección.
Because I have seen the same people moving from one organization that is maybe predominantly reactive to another organization that is, let's say, in Six Sigma, and the person just fits in and do what the rest of the environment does around him.
Porque yo he visto gente que pasa de una organización reactiva a una que son más avanzadas, Six Sigma por ejemplo, y rinden en este otro contexto.
Having said that, I think the defect elimination approach will give you elements of reactive maintenance. You are going to decide to do something reactive.
De hecho, el marco de trabajo de eliminación de defecto
decide to do something just plain.
Dará base para trabajar en algunos casos de manera reactiva, de manera planeada, de manera proactiva,
And
etc.
so on. So the defect elimination is the thinking behind an approach, not something that eliminates all of this or need for that.
So, eliminación de defectos es más la filosofía, más que no eliminar la necesidad de aplicar otras técnicas.
That's why I would like you to think, maybe if you agree with me, but you don't have to, is this is a choice of the company, not a maturity.
So, en resumen, si estáis de acuerdo conmigo, es más una cuestión de elección más que de madurez.
So let's see experience. Our experience so far, 4 years. This is 5th year since we practiced this. This is, you remember 4 gates? So we got operation, maintenance, external, environment. So these 4 gates, this is the distribution.
Esta es la distribución de las causas raíz en los 4 años últimos de experiencia nuestra, de las 4 compuertas.
I just have a question, maybe somebody can help me, or maybe you can tell me with your arm. The biggest part here, that's the biggest part of the pie, which means these are the root causes, where they come from, which gate they came from. Which one you think is this one?
¿Qué creen que son el grupo de causa raíz rojo, el mayoritario?
Maintenance? Who thinks maintenance? Just give me some idea. Okay, we have 6.5%. Who thinks it's operations? Maintenance guys thinks it's operation. Operations guys thinks it's maintenance. That's good so far. We have about 60% operations. Who thinks it's environment? 1? Okay, what that 0.1%? No, 1%. And external? 1. Okay. That's what's happened. I mean, I can't make these numbers.
Estos números son los que salieron en 4 años de trabajo.
So what this is saying, I'll just give you one example. That majority of the defects that come in, you actually have less control of.
Esto significa que la mayoría de defectos tenemos poco control.
And the second one, which is operations, we had a good group here because they're all maintenance guys. They know where the defect comes from.
So, la gente de manutención sabe perfectamente los defectos de operación de dónde vienen.
But the same guys, if they get in the room and they've been asked honestly to tell what they do to the equipment, when they are asked to do this hero approach over 4 hours to get the equipment back online, how many defects we introduced at that time?
Pero todos sabemos cuando hay prácticas reactivas que estamos introduciendo defectos también cuando hacemos manutención.
And we know that. So this is roughly the distribution, and this is not one case. This is summary of all the cases that we've done so far. And again, in different organizations, in the organization that you present, the distribution can be completely different.
Esto es el agregado de diferentes operaciones.
So remember, this is a statistical group of all the industries that we work in.